now I'm excited to bring out our panel. This is our unicorn panel. We will be joined by Nirmit Parikh, who's the founder and CEO of Appna, Chandra Pemmasani, who is the founder and CEO of UWorld, Martin Basiri, co-founder and CEO of ApplyBoard, and Jamie Candee, the CEO of Edmentum. And I'm going to be turning things over to our moderator, Jenny Anderson. She is the host of the Learnit podcast, which showcases global learning leaders reimagining what students need to know, how they'll learn it, and how technology they're using to get there. And so here to talk about their post-COVID outlooks on scaling growth and innovation, please welcome our panel.
Welcome to everybody, virtually and in the room. Thank you for staying this long after lunch. I appreciate it. So excited to have this conversation with all of you. What unites this group is that their companies are worth a lot of money. And they have scaled their innovations, and investors and customers think there's more runway for growth. So what we want to talk about today is how to kind of challenges and opportunities around growth, some equity and access issues, the EdTech market in general, some of the funding issues that are going on, and maintaining culture at scale, which I think is an important question for a lot of people in this audience. I'm going to do, they just did a brief overview, appna.com. This is Nirmit. Nirmit Appna is a digital employment platform that connects blue and gray collar workers in India to jobs and to learning communities where they can upskill, which is very interesting. Next to him, we've got Chandra Pemmasani, doctor. He's a doctor. His PR person told me to refer to him as Dr. Pemmasani. CEO of UWorld, which is test prep for professional exams, nursing, medical, private company. So interesting commentary there. They have a great motto, which is, we make really hard stuff easy to learn, which I really like.
Easy to understand.
Oh, I got it wrong. Next to Chandra, we have Jamie Candee, CEO of Edmentum, delivers digital courses and assessments in the K-12 space, 6 million students. And next to her, Martin Basiri, co-founder and CEO of ApplyBoard, which connects international students with institutions to help solve the problem of international student recruitment. So we have this spectrum here, which is kind of amazing, right? We have K-12, we have higher ed, we have professional exams, and we have the future of work. So I want to start by talking about growth, where you're seeing growth. Jamie, let me start with you. Kids are back in classrooms. I would expect demand for digital content to be diminishing. What's happening?
It's actually growing. So I'll talk a little bit. We're a full K-12 education technology company. So at the elementary level, there's a caregiving aspect. And so what we have seen, what we do, the work that we do is we take personalized learning tools, supplemental intervention tools at the elementary level. At the secondary level, we have one of the largest online courses catalogs in the industry. And so we pair those EdTech tools with teaching services. So our goal is to build capacity amongst educators in order for them to effectively use the products. At the elementary level, what you're actually seeing is a much higher usage of tools in the classroom for personalized learning reasons. And we just heard the previous panel talk a little bit about unfinished learning, COVID learning loss. So that's a significant increase. At the secondary level is where we're seeing the greatest transformation. So we have significantly higher enrollments in our courses paired with our virtual teaching services today than we had during COVID. The reason for that is the transformation and flexibility and access and in demand for high school students wanting to be able to take, a whole variety of courses, and districts and charters now understanding that that's possible. You can buy the courses, you can pair them with teaching services, we can build capacity within your teachers. So there has been significant growth in this last academic year.
And just put a few numbers around this. What percentage of kids in America right now are taking digital courses?
So of the 6 million students that we serve, 4 million are taking digital courses, and then the remainder are on one of our other supplemental intervention products.
I'll force you to do some predictions at the end, but I won't do that right now. Martin, let's move to you. What happened to you during COVID? There was an international shutdown. I imagine international recruitment must have faced some challenges. Quickly summarize for us kind of what happened in COVID and what you're seeing now.
Yeah, it was, I think, the fastest move of how the whole industry changed in a matter of days in our industry. So what happened first, the border shut down, and as you said, it's called international students. So they have to move from point A to point B. And in 2020, the market went almost 70%, declined by 70%. And 2021, it recovered a little bit. And we see that 2022 going to be higher number than even 2019. And we see this growth going to continue to about 2024 till the whole pent-up demand completely get absorbed. But the industry also growing at about 12% per year. But it was very interesting because all the universities and colleges that historically were just leading on certain countries or something, everyone has to get reset. So it was a huge opportunity, especially for second and third tier university, by come up and be the first choice of the students because they were able to bring some new experience to the students. Than some of the bigger universities, because of the bureaucracy, they weren't able to offer them to the students. And it's kind of we've seen that some shuffling happened. Some of them gonna go back, and some of them I think gonna stay permanent. So the people who serve the students very well during these 2 years, I think they're gonna get a very good long-term advantage of that.
And just again, a few numbers around this. How many students are you serving? How many institutions are you serving?
Yeah, we have about 1,500 universities and colleges in Canada, US, UK, and Australia. And so far we help about 300,000 students from 125 countries in the world with their applications to come to these countries. And some of them are still on the process for this year.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Chandra, let's talk a little bit about your business. You're private. You have 50% margins, I believe. That's what you told me.
That's a private information.
Oh, was I not meant to share that? Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Sorry, not sorry.
Good, though.
Sure.
Anyways, a significant market share as well. But you also have grown this company over the years without a sales and marketing team, which is quite new. How have you been able to scale this business so quickly without that infrastructure and without the outside funding?
Yeah, see, we focus extremely on the product quality. The way we look at these products, when we build it, we don't want sales or marketing people to sell it. We want every customer to be the salesperson of our company. So when we take that kind of approach, whether we went into medicine, nursing, or any other vertical, we got more than 90% people using our products. And by the time we have this scale, we really didn't need that many marketing and sales people. The word of mouth was so strong, we didn't need outside capital or any other structure. But we are doing, see, that's also the advantage was the timing of when we started. I started this in year 2002 and 3 when the internet was coming. And the medicine, nursing, all those areas, at that time, the innovation was not that much. So I had a timing advantage. But recently, I mean, that doesn't mean we don't need sales and marketing. We have started working in different verticals, and they need sales and marketing, example, K-12 space and all that stuff. But it's a little bit of luck and extreme focus on the quality of the product.
I love the backstory is that Chandra went to a publisher with his own prep materials for the medical exam, and they wouldn't publish it, and so he put it on the internet.
Yeah.
The rest was history. Just very quickly, where are you seeing, you've got a bunch of verticals, you've got accounting, finance, medical, nursing, you're going into the K-12 space, and we'll come back to this, but where are you seeing the most growth right now?
I think, every vertical that we went, we're growing significantly, but eventually in the future, we think K-12 has the largest opportunity for us.
And perhaps the most challenges, but we'll come back to that.
Yes.
Nirmit, tell me a little bit about AppNow, this is a kind of uncharted territory, right? This is quite new. So what kind of numbers are you looking at right now? How fast are you scaling? And what kind of trends are you seeing?
Right. So AppNow allows people to connect to opportunities, and we do this by helping people build digital professional identities. Many of them are blue and gray collar workers who are like first-time internet users. We also allow them to find the best hyperlocal jobs and also find the right skilling partners to kind of help them upskill and help them find their tribe. Like a carpenter can find other carpenters so they can network with them, learn from them, and a lot of peer-to-peer conversations happen. We have 22 million users right now. We are doubling our user base every single month. We have north of 300,000 employers hiring through AppNow. And we have been able to scale very well owing to a couple of things. One is the network effect. So we got the network effect math right. What we realized is that in this category, candidates want hyperlocal jobs. Hyperlocal jobs want candidates from nearby area. So we went micro market by micro market growing versus doing like, a full out strategy. So that's how we scaled up. Second, everybody was building it for the employer. And we said, okay, let's take a completely different approach and let's build it for candidates, because everybody thought, particularly in blue and gray collar workforce, candidates are warm bodies which will just come. And we said, let's go and build something for them. So we introduced visiting cards, which people love. And we build these communities where people come for the job but stay back for the community. And of course, COVID played also a bigger role, because what happens is the human-to-human supply chain of hiring, which was a predominant hiring way in India, that started breaking because of COVID. And because of that, everything went digital, and we were able to go and maximize at that point of time, and we scaled the company through.
Fantastic. And what are you seeing in terms of, there's kind of two different trends around employment. There's the great resignation that everybody's sort of talking about. Is that happening in India? What are you seeing from your data?
Actually, jobs are growing very fast and candidates are applying. The one interesting trend we see that work from home jobs are increasing very significantly. And we see a lot of women coming into the workforce. So that's a very interesting trend. So like I was just talking to one of our users, Jyoti. She is a single mom, housewife with older in-laws, couldn't work because she had to take care of parents and in-laws. But because of the rise of work from home jobs, particularly into this blue and gray collar categories, now she can work 2-3 hours. So I see women in workforce, at least in India, is increasing significantly. So that's a very positive trend.
I want to ask one quick question on sort of what success for each of your businesses looks like. Because for you, is it matching jobs or is it just applying for jobs? What is your sort of, following John Doerr's panel, what are your key performance metrics? What was the term? OKRs.
Yeah. So most important is connecting to opportunities, and which is also the mission and the vision of the company. And one is finding jobs, but also helping people find their tribe, right? So a lot of times, say when we go to great business schools, you find this cluster of friends who help you, our connections, who help you find the right opportunities at the right place. Most of the, and given people have not won the ovarian lottery, right? They are born into, say, not so privileged families, they don't go to great schools. And if they don't go to great schools, they don't have the network. So the idea is, can we help them build that network via tribe? So if we can go and help them jobs as well as finding out the right network, I think so we have done the job, because like finding a job is just like a sprint and the career is a marathon. So we want them to win in their careers.
So it's the matching and the tribe and not necessarily the job placement. Let's talk about K-12 in your space. What would you see as, what are your success goals for this? What do students need to get from you?
See, most of the markets that we entered, for us, the way we define is if we can get to 90% of people using our products, that defines success for us. K-12, we understand it's a little bit harder, but still we will be able, our goal is to get at least 70 to 80% of the schools using all our AP products at some point over the next 5 to 10 years.
And the logic there being that if that many people are using it, they must be working?
Absolutely.
Okay. Jamie, what about you?
So for us, we think about both academic and non-academic measures. Usage is not meaningful. There's a whole variety of ways in which the programs are used within the classroom. So from a student perspective, it's both growth and proficiency. And from a teacher perspective, it is the supports that we're providing to teachers. We believe that our #1 responsibility is to enable great teaching, and the most important asset within a classroom, whether virtual or in person, is the teacher. So how we scale the teaching effectiveness and how we ensure that a teacher walks in and out of that classroom each and every day, reaching every student versus just those students in the middle is what we look for as true success. The non-academic measures are what we call whole student. So we have SEL programming. We think a lot about access and equity in terms of making sure like we have all of the courses and all of the curriculum that you could ever possibly want to take, both core content as well as elective CTE, career exploration and readiness. And so how do we get that in the hands of every single student in this country? So for us, reach is important, that we're getting into the underserved communities and that we're building capacity within teachers. And I think we'll maybe get to this in a few minutes, but we have a massive issue in this country right now with teachers leaving the profession in public education. And so keeping our high-quality teachers in the classroom and equipping them with the tools that they need to be successful and feel like they're reaching each and every student, that for us is the ultimate measure of success.
Such an interesting opportunity with a lot of money in the space for... There's a lot of money right now and a lot of questions as to what to do with it. Capacity building is obviously
Pay teachers
an opportunity.
more and develop them.
Martin, what are your what's success for you in your company, for your clients?
Success for ApplyBoard is way greater than ApplyBoard. Like right now in the whole world, we have 165 million people in higher education. And for every one student that is in higher education, there are another 2 students must have been at higher education that they're not because they don't have access to higher education. Success for me personally and success for ApplyBoard is when this mission of accessing to education become a reality. So we can sit down and, like 2050, 2060, and sit down and say like, right now on planet Earth, anyone, regardless of their race, religion, location, parents' wealth, they can go to school. They can change their cycle of, they can get out of the cycle of poverty. They can change their life and their family life. That's really success for ApplyBoard.
But you're matching students and institutions. So, and you can't create more spaces from the institution. So you're really facilitating the process by which students can access a wider variety of programs. Is that right?
This is how we look at the problem. So these universities and colleges around the world that hosting these 165 million students, they're extremely inefficient. So we figured out we can get probably 1x growth, like basically another 160 million people, if we can just bring the efficiency to the process, like first like application, and if we can get the key to the door of everyone. And we with a lot of the technologies like online, hybrid, networking, and everything else. So we can get another 160 million people literally served by the same. And in the meantime, we could see like boot camps, other forms of skill development are coming, and they're gonna serve the other side. What we are very hopeful is if we can bring all this efficiency to the market, so the current players, they can do it. Otherwise, if you look at the inflation in tuition fees. If this want to continue, we more and more outprice the people who actually need the higher education the most.
That's a perfect segue into equity and access. So before I ask any questions, I just want to ask each of you, has EdTech delivered on the promise of closing equity divides and improving access? Down the line, yes or no? No caveats.
Not yet.
Yes, in certain places, but not in certain places.
I like the liberties you take.
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's trying.
All right, those were excellent answers. So I want you guys to each talk a little bit about how you are personally, your companies, are trying to tackle this problem. I'll start with Nirmit.
So if you see the global workforce for planet Earth is 3 billion people. Out of that, 2.3 billion people are in this rising working class segment, that is the blue and the gray collar category. And if you see, every company in the world is working for the 700 million white collar workers because they have higher purchasing power. And what we want to do is we want to work for this 2.3 billion people who are being systematically discriminated. I'm using the word systematic here because like more tools are built for 700 million people, they get more successful, and there's this virtuous cycle happens. And similarly, less tools are built for 2.3 billion people, and they become, and the vicious cycle of poverty and unemployment keeps increasing. And let me give you a select example. So think of a Rahul who is born in Delhi in a privileged family, goes to great school, finds great friends, friends are at great places, gets great job opportunities, keeps on growing in the career. And 15 kilometers away from Rahul, there is a Samina who is being born in, say, Ghaziabad, which is again a small town in India, in an underprivileged family. She doesn't go to the best school, she doesn't have the best friends. Now, when in 9th grade, because of family situation, she has to leave her education, and then she goes and finds this needy jobs and is always struggling for jobs. While Rahul is becoming successful and successful, Samina is going into this, vicious cycle of poverty and unemployment. And both of them were born on the same day, just 15 kilometers apart, just because Rahul won the ovarian lottery. Now, in today's India, what we see is, because of the smartphone penetration and internet, both Rahul and Samina, they have a smartphone and they have internet on it. And what Apna wants to do is, we want to level the playing field for Samina. So every Samina can also get all the opportunities by finding her tribe and finding the right jobs around her, so that she can also keep growing in her career. And that's the whole goal and vision, mission of Apna. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. Chandra?
So when you talk about equity and access, I'll take this K-12 as a main example, because that's where most of these issues come in. Right? I mean, you have a lot of great products, but the real issue is using them appropriately and making sure the students are really engaged and motivated. Right? Let's say we created the best product, or anyone can create the best product. But if the teacher cannot trust the quality of the product, and if it is not easy to use, and if the teacher doesn't think it will change the student outcomes, it will not be used in the schools. And the second, once the student starts using it, is it motivating them? Is it engaging them? Are you able to draw in large number of students to actually learn? Unless you solve that systematic problem, we can talk about all the access and everything, but nothing gets done. So at least in UWorld perspective, that's what we're focusing on. We're taking each component systematically, working with the school districts, working with the teachers, seeing how we can deliver this in a most effective manner. Once you get that component, the rest is all about affordability and giving it cheaper. And we can do it with technology.
So technology drives down the price, but to build the product, you have to work through the districts and through the teachers.
Absolutely. Otherwise, nobody will use it.
And then what about the engagement piece? How do you ensure that the engagement in the product?
Exactly. Right. That's where we have the expertise. We literally, doctors, nurses, everybody uses it because we promote active learning. That means it's problem-based. It's very realistic. It's not abstract concepts. It's not about memorization. It's about understanding. And you teach visually, very simplistically. And you build that not by one educator writing a book, but 10 people writing a component of the book and making sure is it approachable or not. So when you take those systematic approach, then you create this most high quality product that everyone raves about it. And that's how you're going to fundamentally change the access and equity issues.
Thanks so much. Jamie, I'd love for you to tackle the equity and access. And please do address the teacher shortage issue, because I think it fits in here, right? If kids don't have teachers, that's only going to drive those equity gaps further.
It does. So we talked about the 6 million students that we serve. About a third of those students are at or below the poverty line. And so several years back, we looked at the opportunity of how do we start to build capacity. This is pre-COVID, so way before COVID. So what we built was a K-12 OPM model. And the idea and the goal at that time, and it has scaled tremendously since then, was the first thing we're going to do is go into the districts and charter management organizations, and we're going to show you what high-quality virtual learning and teaching looks like. But our goal is to exit. So we have teachers on staff. We have about 600 teachers that work for us full-time, and another 1,000 or so that work for us on part-time subject areas. And so basically what we started doing with these districts who had real limitations in terms of the access to specialist services and things that you need for students in these environments is we built a model where we bring the curriculum in and then we bring the teaching services in. And over the course of time, whether it's one academic year, 2 or 3, what we're doing is we're actually mentoring the teachers and the administrative staff within those districts and charters to say, now you do this. And we start to scale back the services. So the curriculum, the subscription product stays in the district. It's well used, it's understood, there's a lot of capacity building that's happening, and eventually we're building the capacity of high quality virtual education so that traditional districts understand you can run your own virtual program. So we started that several years back. During COVID, it absolutely exploded. What's interesting is those districts who had the most underserved students that had been working with us on this model long before COVID did the best during COVID. So many of those schools, it didn't feel like remote emergency learning. It felt like an extension of virtual education they had already been offering to their students. So you fast forward to today, and we are right now receiving a lot of the teachers who are leaving the system. They're coming to us to still work in the system, but they want to do it in a different way. So the challenge that we're tackling now is, how do we continue to work with our district partners to say, we have to continue to transform. This can't all be on the teacher's shoulders. We have got to be able to support them, train them up, and give them options in terms of how they support their kids. All they want to do is work with their kids and support the kids. They don't want all this other stuff that we're asking them to deal with. And so we feel like that capacity building model that we started almost 7 years ago is really yielding the kind of outcomes that we need to continue to scale the system within the system, if that makes sense.
And has that share of students that live under the poverty line, has that grown? Has that stayed roughly the same?
It's stayed about the same. And I think the other thing I would say, just really quickly, we still almost have half the stimulus funding to spend by 2024 in this country. And one of the things that I do think is progress is, we've talked all the time about the lack of one-to-one and one-to-one from an equity and access perspective. Very little of the stimulus funding has come into this organization to purchase our products and services. What we're seeing is a vast majority of it is going to building out infrastructure, one-to-one, Wi-Fi connectivity, equipping school buses to bring Wi-Fi into underserved communities. So I actually think that's like a really big deal that we're not talking enough about, and starting to study, like, how is that actually going to give us more access before school, after school, during the school hours. So that's another thing that we're pretty excited about.
And it's going to affect both of your businesses actually quite dramatically. Having that infrastructure in place is going to then be the jumping point from which you can grow quite quickly. Martin, can you talk quickly about equity and access?
Yes, like all we do, it's about like providing access. So if you look at the total demographic right now, about 5 to 6 million students like studying abroad. The people who have the financial mean or the high qualification to do that is about 5. So 80% of the market are literally underrepresented. Like they can't go study abroad. Majorly is because of the application processing is so hard, and they can't make a conclusion. It's such an important thing that decision at the age of 18 or 22 to leave your country, go to another country and pick a university and a city and everything to start a new country, a new life. So that's something like we are working, like that's where the tech is, like how we can gather all this information, putting it like on an engine, train the engine, like put a lot of like a different like data analytics and AI to match the students, and then like build a very simple systematic application that you can not only apply for your school but also other steps. Like for example, we started bringing the financial institutions to the system, like banks. So students, when they come, they already get their bank account and everything else. But we're like, it's behind our mind is like people like after these 20 million people. Like right now, if we want it or not, like a study abroad is the product of 90% who can get the financial mean. Like for example, people who come to Canada and US, minimum they gotta have like $50,000. And this is a lot of money for many countries, for a lot of people. So what we are gearing up is like, how can we systematically solve the financial access for studying abroad? And I don't know how we are going to do that, but I know by 2030, we want to find a solution that anyone who is like willing to work hard and do work for this, we can find a financial way for them to go and study abroad.
Any financial partners in the room, any banks, beat Martin afterwards in the far corner and solve that particular part of the problem. But we're running out of time. We only have a few minutes left. We have to talk about the EdTech market, funding. This applies less to you. There's a lot of people, I think, in the room who are going to want to hear about this. What is happening in the market right now? There's been a severe correction in the EdTech market. There is a war in Ukraine. There clampdown in China. There have been a lot of setbacks in this market. What's happening to fundraising?
Yeah. So the way to put it, I think so. This is a great time where the signal and the noise will be separated, because now high quality companies will get funded more. So I think so if any company with great metrics, I think so, are still getting funded, and a lot of positivity there. And for companies with not good so metrics, the great time to work on your core and build fundamental products to solve for them. But I would say it's more like a necessary small correction which is happening.
Jamie?
So we were fortunate during COVID, which was super interesting. Topic for a different day, but we actually sold the majority stake of the business to the Basiri Group, which has been an amazing partnership, and we're really excited to have them. So since then, there's a ton of funding going into K-12. There is a little bit of a correction happening right now. What I would say is that great companies that can prove really good outcomes and impact are continuing to see strong multiples, a lot of investor interest. But we're going through a transformation as well. There's a lot of new money coming in. There's a lot of learning happening around like niche EdTech solutions versus scaled. So the funding is there. The investors are there. There is a very keen focus right now on, were you a company of COVID bump growth? Will you sustain being able to show the KPIs and the metrics that demonstrate that you were growing prior to COVID, probably accelerated greatly during? How are you sustaining whatever this stage we call right now, kind of coming out of post-COVID? But there is a correction. So those assets that have traded recently or are taking on funding, if you don't have those kind of metrics, you can't show that sustained growth. You're not going to see crazy multiples like maybe we were seeing a year ago.
Anything you want to add?
It's booming for us. Like all the 2 years, our industry were down, and a lot of people are like, oh, who knows, like when it come back, but like we survived, not only survived, we've grown every year in the market that was going down. Now, like last year, we raised about like $300 million. Right now, I think like easily we can raise a couple of times that if we want. Like investors like reaching a lot because they all want to go for post-pandemic companies, and our market has a huge TAM, huge pent-up demand. We have the right product market fit. So for us, it was a very positive because, as Nirmit said, like right now, there are not that many companies that have like a growth trajectory in front of them in a market that valuations like corrected like 40 to like 70%. So for us, it was like a very, very net positive what has happened, the recent corrections.
Chandra, what do you make of all the money that is floating around in this market and the correction? Good, bad, neutral for learners?
I'm neutral. I don't want to comment. Anything excess is a problem, right? Everything you have to have a balanced approach. And if you reward bad companies, it destroys good companies too.
And all right, quick predictions. We only have 1 minute. Jamie, percentage increase in kids taking digital courses in America?
Future?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, thousands of percents more of the next. You will see over the next 5 years what happened in higher ed a decade ago, which is every high school in this country over the next several years will offer some or all of the courses available to students online.
Chandra, penetration in the K-12 market in 5 years. UWorld, what is it?
As much as possible. I think we're very confident we'll be able to get more than 60 to 70% easily in 5 years.
Fantastic. Nirmit, job placements. How much are you going to grow in the future? Connecting. I know it's not job placements.
At least I think so this year we are looking to grow at least 20 to 30x more.
Okay. Martin, growth prospects. How many students, what percentage increase are we going to see in international students studying abroad next 5 years?
It's gonna at least double by end of this decade. So we hit over 10 million students by end of the decade.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our virtual audience and, of course, to the panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.